Welcome to the Business of Hearing podcast, the #1 marketing and practice growth podcast for high-performing private practice hearing care leaders. It's Friday, and this is my end-of-week roundup of what's top of mind after 7 days of helping some of the world's best private practices to attract high-quality patients, fight the evil forces of manufacturer-owned chains, and be impossible to compete with. My name's Ollie Luke. Pull up a chair, pour yourself a drink, and let's have a chat. So welcome along to another episode of the Business of Hearing podcast, and I've got a question for you. Are you looking for a one-night stand, or are you looking for a marriage? And don't worry, I know I've got a beer, I've not lost my mind. Let me articulate this a little better, because I feel sorry for you as a practice leader in a way that you are now forced to make decisions in areas that you never really wanted to know anything about. Marketing is a prime example, accounting, finance are prime examples. Like what you wanted to do as a career, now you end up having to inherit all these skills or learn skills or throw yourself out your comfort zone to make decisions in areas that you don't fundamentally have experience in or naturally have desire to learn about. And one of them is marketing. And I genuinely believe marketing is incredibly simple, yet it's purposely overcomplicated and confused so people can sell you stuff. Like that is it. Foundationally, marketing is doing the basics to a high standard consistently. And that in itself is a lot of work. But all this whiz-bang tactics, all this chase the rabbit, it's mostly BS from my experience. And look, I'm going to try and give you an analogy now that will simplify marketing using that dating analogy of one-night stand and marriage. And I always find analogies work really well. And, use an example. If you're trying to explain the importance of preventative maintenance checks to patients, explain the importance of cleaning checks, etc., you could use the analogy of it's like having your car serviced. You need your car serviced regularly so it can run at its best. It's going to protect the long-term value. It's going to ensure it serves you for many years to come, blah, blah, blah. And I just think analogies work quite well for that. So I want to tie this back to this form of dating analogy. And I want to get this right. Because if I get it wrong, I sound weird. And if Mike, who is editing this podcast, clips this incorrectly, and I'm just going to look like a freak. So I'll do my best to articulate this. But let's say you're single. Let's say you're brand new single and you're going out there. Now, if you were looking for a one-night stand or you were looking for a marriage, you'd approach these very, very differently. If you were looking for a one-night stand, then there's a few approaches. You'd go to places where it's easier to get the yes. You'd hang around in certain environments, or you'd play the modern kind of numbers game, right? You'd go on like an app like Tinder and message lots of people, just keep swiping right or left, whichever way it is. I've never been a Tinder user, I'm glad to say, and my wife will be thankful for. But that's the game you'd play. You'd go numbers game, you'd go anybody who looks okay, I'm desperate for a one-night stand, and whoever bites, perfect, I get quick, short-term gratification. The alternative approach is, if you're looking for marriage, you take a different approach, right? You ensure you put your best foot forward. You want to ensure you look good. You want to ensure you articulate yourself in the best way. And you show up in environments where you'd probably find somebody that would be a good life partner. Very, very different approaches between the two. One is quick rush at gratification, hang around in grotty places, try and find people who want the same thing as you in a short amount of time. One is, it's not an overnight process, but I'm looking for the right kind of people. That is a very, very different shift. And I do believe marketing and advertising is very much the same. Because if we look towards this one-night stand approach from an advertising and marketing perspective, this is quick, buy a database with 5,000 people, throw this at them, see if 5 respond. It's this spray and hope for the best technique. And similarly, running towards short-term gratification from an advertising perspective is what's the angle? What's the pickup line? What's the thing I can say right now to get somebody to say, yes, me? It's so short-term. The challenge is, as business owners, we're so driven by, I need instant return on investment, that sometimes you move to these. But the more you move to these, the more you distance yourself away from getting the right types of people that are kind of more marriage-based. The alternative is, if you want to apply the dating analogy, the marriage analogy, to marketing and advertising, it's, how do I put my best self forward? How do I look my best? How do I present myself? How do I ensure that I show up in the right areas? When people go looking for somebody like me, how can they see me and be attracted to me rather than me be overbearing on them? That is the way that marketing should work, right? If you're looking for the right types of people that will be patients for life, that will show up to you, wanting you rather than you desperately trying to push yourself to them, then that is the approach. And I hope this analogy is making sense. It feels a bit weird to say, and fundamentally, if I break it down, it's stop chasing short-term gratification. Like if you're looking for like quick swipe right or left, whatever it is on Tinder, quick approach that girl or guy at the bar, like it's almost this overbearing, desperate approach of I need people coming to me urgently. And you end up doing things that probably are not you. If you're looking at this approach, it's how do I just be my best? How do I ensure I show up so people are naturally attracted to me? That is marketing. If you can focus on that, you're going to get better quality patients. You're going to get them coming to you organically, and you're going to get them coming to you being somewhat pre-qualified that you're the person for them. And it's challenging, right? And I hope this analogy somewhat explains it. But I think bringing it down to dating of what are you actually looking for? Are you looking for that quick fix, or are you looking for the right thing? Both have their place, and you see both of them very much showing up in the dating world and in the marketing world. But if you can focus in the right area, good value proposition, proof you are who you say you are, show up in the right circles, have the right kind of reputation that somebody wants to be with you for life rather than for a night, then guess what? You're going to get more of the right people, you're going to grow more reputation, and you're going to be here for decades to come rather than nights to come. It is the right approach fundamentally. And if we really bubble this down, stop chasing rabbits, stop thinking because they're spending money on this and it must be working for them, I'm going to do what they're doing. Focus on the foundations until you've put your best foot forward and you're representing yourself in the best way you possibly can. Don't stress about advertising. Don't stress trying to chase the next golden ticket, the next rabbit, the next TikTok ad, or whatever it needs to be. Focus on this. And it comes down to that analogy that I've shared before. Advertising is like asking somebody on a date. Marriage is all the reasons to say yes. Ensure you give them plenty of reasons to say yes before you even ask somebody to potentially work with you or be your patient. And given how confusing marketing is, I just wanted to bubble it down because your manufacturers contact you, agencies contact you, you're told that you need to do this, you need to do that, hey, here's this thing you should probably do, this practice is doing this, here's a case study. Focus on you. Focus on just putting your best foot forward, be the best possible version of you. If you've not got a wealth of evidence from your patients sharing how you've changed their life, do that. If you're not really clear on who you are in your marketplace, do that. If you've not got comparison content to educate somebody on why they should choose you over Costco or a manufacturer-owned chain, do that. Ensure you're putting your best foot forward. Foundationally, it's 90% of what you need to do in order to stand out and be here for decades to come. That stuff changes by the day and you're constantly going to be chasing your tail. But the people who do all of this stuff, and of course, if you're watching the audio thing, I'm just pointing in the direction of my example of one night stands and looking for the quick win, then you're constantly going to have to be doing it. Things move, you're going to have to keep spending money, ad prices go up, so you now need to find more margin, you're going to be biting and your margin's going to be disappearing on you as you chase that. This stuff being the core foundations of showing up in the right areas with the right level of respect, trust, and your best foot forward is how you win for the long term. Hope that's helpful. I hope this analogy came across in the right way. I will share with transparency, this is the second time I've recorded this because the first one, it just ended up a little bit too weird on one night stands and marriage. But this one, I think come across a little better. Hope the analogy makes sense. Hope you don't judge me too deeply for some of my weird analogies, but hope that's helpful, and I'll speak to you again next week with another episode. And there we have it. Another episode has come to an end, and I have a quick favour to ask. If you have found this helpful, then who do you know who should listen to this podcast? I strongly believe a rising tide lifts all boats, and right now, private practice needs to stick together to fight these big, gormless groups and these manufacturer-owned Goliaths that are looking to take market share from us. Consider who should be listening, pass on the word about the Business of Hearing podcast, and I'll see you again next week.